We play Savage Worlds, whether we're at the table or over the internet. In our role-playing game, fantasy is just the beginning. From the Wild West to the depths of outer space and beyond. Anytime, any place. They're all Savage Worlds.
There we go. Now you can hear me. Well, welcome. Happy Thursday, Savage Worlds fans. Welcome to a live stream. I'm Christopher Landauer, and tonight we're going to have a very special guest on for you, Garrett Lahey, author of the Crater Lake Chronicles and co-author of our next Deadlands project, which will be coming to Kickstarter very soon. And so you guys will find out about that tonight too. But before we get started, we got one or two more minutes to let folks wander in and get the notifications. I want to introduce you to Pinnacle's newest employee. Marketing team needs to expand. So this is my new VP of marketing. Oh, his name is Hannibal. I just got back from picking him up from the breeder. Isn't he the cutest little thing ever? He is a Great Pyrenees Bernese Mountain Dog cross. That's the name. Because Hannibal's a famous general who marched a bunch of elephants over both the Pyrenees and the Alps. And Berners, unlike some people who think that they're the same as Bernese pythons or Burmese pythons are from Burma, way over in Asia. Berners, Bernese mountain dogs, are from Switzerland and in the Alps. So because he's a cross between the Alps and the Pyrenees, Hannibal sounds like a good name for a chunky little monkey. So he's our new addition. And I got to say, Dog World has kind of failed me, man. So this is the size of a normal milk bone, right? And they make milk bones that are this big. Oh, my God. You can see how cute that is? So just a comparison, like normal, tiny. And I didn't know. You guys didn't tell me. Someone needed to tell me that they made like super mini milk bones because they're totally adorbs. So the... I think we'll almost get ready to get started. Garrett is a very cool guy. Again, he did solo Crater Lake Chronicles, which is a solo way to play Savage Worlds with just one player, and he'll explain that tonight. But since I'm the king of spoilers, and we wouldn't let an occasion like a new staff member go by unannounced. The name of our next Kickstarter, which is going to come on February 15th, so right after Valentine's Day, hopefully you're in the mood for love, is Deadlands, Hell on the High Plains. So let me give you a little banner for that while we before we get started. Isn't that a cool piece of art, folks? Oh, let's get rid of the "we're starting" banner. We don't need that anymore. Boom, there we go. So that's a nice little tease. As you guys understand, so Garrett is one of 3 authors on the Hell on the High Plains project, and you'll get interviews from all of them as we get closer to Kickstarter or on the first day of the Kickstarter. But until then, I just want to give you guys a little sneak peek. And so that'll be launching in a little under 2 weeks. And without further ado, now that you've had your puppy tax, although I do have to mention, the dog's got good taste in books. So this is my copy of Ripper's Frightful Expeditions, and I brought it with me on the little trip to pick him up from the breeder to get some work and reading done. And he took a little bite into the book too, and he likes it just as much as me. So he's got good taste in Savage Worlds as well. So thanks for joining us. Put in your comments. I'll be here to answer them. The Garrett portion is pre-recorded, but Garrett's a cool guy, and he's our mad and/or crazy genius. And without further ado, I want you guys to one, get a great sneak peek of Hell on the High Plains. Garrett will talk about it a little bit tonight. And 2, learn how to play Savage Worlds by yourself. So here we go, guys. We are joined now by Garrett Lahey, one of the authors of Hell on the High Plains. Welcome, Garrett.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
And this is the first time we get to hang out and meet. And but your reputation precedes you. You are the quote unquote crazy genius behind the Crater Lake Chronicles. So before we talk about Hell on the High Plains, I do think we have to talk about this wonderful little book. If you guys, this is available now. If you out there haven't picked this up and you want to get a flavor of the crazy genius that is Garrett Lahey, it is a solo adventure for Savage Worlds. That's pretty unique. So tell me, like, how did that idea come about? What is it like designing for solo adventures? So give me a little a sales pitch for Crater Lake Chronicles, sir.
Yeah, I think solo adventures are a great way to learn how to play a game because there's not the pressure of anybody else being there. Also, you can do things in a solo adventure that without having to worry about if they're going to bother other players. You can explore as much as you want, or kill as much as you want, or socialize as much as you want, and it's just the way you want it to be. So you're not slowing it down or going too fast for anybody around you. And it's also maybe a chance to try characters that you wouldn't necessarily play in a group game, but it's a character you've always wanted to play. So you can just see how they fare on their own out there in the Weird West. So
this is a 91-page book, and this is the first thing you've done for Pinnacle. And so congratulations on that. But that's a pretty hefty little debut. I mean, other people kind of start with like one sheets or adventures. But what was the idea that like, in approaching Crater Lake Chronicles, what do you have to take into consideration for? And this is true solo play, right? So it's not like one game master, one player. Like people want to play this. It's all on your lonesome. You are the player and the game master in one, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can play that all by yourself. Now, I have seen some things on forums where people are using it as a module for one player or one GM, or even a group. They just spruce up the number of enemies a little bit. But by design, it's just you all alone out there.
So for people who haven't seen the inside, like I have, explain how does it work? Like how does someone solo play? Like how is it set up and how do they go from adventure to adventure?
So I don't know if I should assume that people are familiar with choose your own adventure game books. So it was big when I was a kid in the 80s. You have a choose your own adventure game book. It says, there's a sound outside. If you open the door to see what it is, turn to page 7. If you stay where you are and grab a baseball bat, turn to page 9. So it has that. It has that as its root. But then it's also got game mechanics mixed in so that when you say, oh, I want to fight that thing, rather than just the author deciding for you whether you won or lost, you get out your dice and your cards, and you can even put a mat down with miniatures, and you play that out and find out for yourself if your character was up to that. Also, just looking for things, you make notice checks, and you get to use all the normal things you do in your character to decide how that choice turns out rather than the author of the book deciding for you.
That's pretty exciting. And so what is your design process? Like, I know, like, this doesn't end up in the book, at least as far as I haven't finished yet, but do you chart out, like, do you have a massive chart on, like, A goes to B, goes to 102, goes to 305? How do you keep all that in your head and make sure that, it flows correctly? Is that part of the process, or how do you write these kind of solo adventures?
Yeah, you've intuited that correctly, or you've written one yourself before. But yeah, I do it by flowchart. In fact, I was just doing one today for my gamers. I have a section of a game coming up where they split up, and then I just pass them a document. But the way I create the document, looks like that.
Oh, let me go big on your screen for a second. Let's see. How do I do solo? Yep, there we go. Drag you there. There we go.
It's just a flow chart. Did they win the fight or lose? Did they lie or not lie? How'd that turn out?
Oh, nice.
Incapacitation table right there. So yeah, I kind of do a flow chart, and that's how you try to kind of keep it all, make sure it's going somewhere.
That's fantastic. So how did you get, like, so let's roll it back, way back. How did you get into role-playing games, and how did you find Savage Worlds?
Oh, that's a great question. So I got into role-playing games at 12 years old. I think, I don't know how you feel about talking about other products and thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
The red box has been mentioned multiple times on how did you get into gaming. So
well, there we are, because it was in fact the red box D&D, which, as you remember, taught you to play by starting you out in a solo adventure. Although these mechanics seem to have been abandoned since 1983, they're not new. And so that's how I got started. I ran a campaign. I started a campaign in about 1988 that has now run continuously till today. But honestly,
nice.
In that other game system, though, the mechanics kind of got tired and burdensome. And so I just went to my local game store and said, I'm looking for something that I can play in multiple genres. And the store owner handed me Savage Worlds. And we were so excited that when we actually went back to our fantasy setting, we just converted it over to Savage Worlds. And that's where we've been since 2012, I think.
Oh, nice. Well, you come at the right time, because between like Savage Pathfinder and then now the next big companion that's coming out is hopefully going to be fantasy, and so it's a good time to compare notes on how your conversion of Savage Worlds, a fantasy property to Savage Worlds, worked versus those two. So yeah, it's a good time to be alive in Savage Worlds, because the options are out there, and I think that's the cool kind of one I wanted to start with Crater Lake Chronicles is the solo adventure option. It is something I've seen a lot more, especially in the fan communities, right? There's a lot of we have swag, and then there's the D&D guild, and the other kind of big gaming systems have fan created content, and it's just those games haven't put out a solo adventure, solo play option. There are other authors out there who are kind of making that a nice niche in the hobby. And I think it's really good, though. I mean, especially for people who, now with COVID and kind of and just the low bar for getting in, right? Like some of us are blessed and have gaming groups. Like you've got a campaign that's been running for multiple decades, but some people it's hard to find games, right? So solo play is kind of an option of learning the rules and figuring out what you like and testing stuff out is really neat. So I'm glad that Crater Lake Chronicles exists, you guys, so you don't have to wait to the end of the Kickstarter or do it as an add-on. You can certainly do it as an add-on, but if you don't have it, you can go pick it up from Pinnacle's website, and it's a well-selling product. And I like the graphic on the front, and you as a crazy genius, there's no anticipation for this guy. You meet him right up front, hello, welcome to the world. This is your entry into this adventure. No punches are being held, so. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, you're talking about that lead creature, that stitched horror. Yeah. It's horrible. I have a suggestion for that if it's helpful to readers, because that thing is laying waste to a lot of people, I'm finding.
Welcome to the game, and now you're dead.
Yeah. Okay. So Deadlands is savage, and it's really, really just a gritty world. Like you need to be amused by horrible death to really play Deadlands well. For that particular encounter, I highly suggest fleeing from the creature until you've built some friends in that logging camp who can help you. That's the key. Unless your character is that you take in there is just a walking weapon.
Right, and having played through that first one, I think players will be served by realizing that the gear you bring with you to start is important here, and to take into account that it is winter time and you are traversing a mountain. So I think, I mean,
dress warm,
right? You can do a mulligan if you didn't realize that. But there wasn't a huge lead up, like there wasn't a whole big chunk at the beginning explaining exactly where you are and what you need to be doing. So if you like me did not go shopping well, realizing that it is, and I mean you should kind of get it like it is winter time. There's snow. It explains, but if you like me did not like have the right gear, I took lots of penalties on the first encounter because no, I don't have that. Okay, -4 on that roll. Oh, that's nasty. So after I did a little mulligan after my first guy got killed, I was like, okay, traveler number 2 knows that he's on a mountain and needs to have at least a coat. Like duh, but.
As a game master, when I have new players, I always say, we're just getting started. We can be easy at the beginning. So feel free to do that for yourself in the book as well. I was excited to see the artwork in that. As the author, you make a few suggestions, but that's it. And then when the book comes out, you see the artwork. And I thought the illustrator or illustrators for that did an amazing job of capturing like the key moments and kind of some of the grittiest moments in there. It was really fun to see the illustrations that were chosen and put in there.
Yeah, did you get to do art orders, or is that that's one of the things that like when you get into production queue, figuring out like what kind of art do we need, how many art pieces, what needs to be in the art. So were you involved in that process, or did Peg handle that for you?
I was slightly involved. I think I gave like a page and a half of suggested illustrations, but of course, whoever did those illustrations, they obviously looked over the text carefully, and from their own imagination came some things that were superior to my suggestions. So it was kind of both, but I'd say mostly on the art, good on the artist for how the artwork in that book turned out. That's
fantastic. So Garrett, do you have any idea, any insight into where this mad genius moniker comes from? What did you do, sir?
Well, the only time I've heard it is after an encounter which occurs in Kansas. There's a swinging bridge which exists in real life across the Kansas River. And so I designed an adventure where there is a derelict steamboat floating on its side filled with dynamite drifting toward this bridge, and a locomotive full of passengers headed toward the bridge. And the bridge isn't even turned where either of them can get past anyway. And so always one of the big rules in role-playing games is don't split the party. And I thought, what if you have to split the party in order to deal with all 3 of these problems simultaneously, and it happens on a precise clock? And so there's a wonderful battle map in the book that shows you how to lay this out. And then for that evening, everyone's just going to be tearing their hair out trying to get everything done in time.
No one of you fail. Everybody needs to succeed. The 2 out of 3 ain't good enough. Sorry, Meatloaf, rest in peace, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? Yeah. So that's fantastic. In Chronicles, I don't know if I read any. I was a big Choose Your Own Adventure fan, and I think this is kind of this isn't endemic to that model. There's actually a lot of memory. There's some really cool memory devices that you use, and I believe you called them
Weird West options.
Yeah, Weird West options. So explain what those are in the course of this solo adventure and how they work, and like what the interest there.
Yeah. So in addition to your character being able to affect how things turn out based on winning a fight or losing a fight or opening a safe or not opening it, also just decisions you make and how you interact with folks, and whether you choose to do tale telling to bring the fear level down or not, or whatever, each of those results in you getting to record a particular Weird West option. And then later in the story, those Weird West options are then re-referenced so that the story is responding to things you did sometimes 2 and 3 chapters ago. And so you're also getting to do world building within the book yourself, because the choices you've made have now altered the course of how it will respond to you down the road in the story.
So for all the people out there, so if you were a true fan of Choose Your Own Adventure, as a kid, like you'd read through once and then you'd read through twice, and you make some really profoundly different decisions. And then they're like the completionists, right? The kids who I want to figure out every possible ending. So you have just created a almost impossibility, sir, on replayability on this. Like you can apparently replay this a million times. There's several hundred scenes, right? Because I think each chapter kind of goes up to like the 150s, 160, little options you can, move through. And then there are over 50 Wild West options of memory that kind of progress the whole thing. So just doing the binary tree on that, every star in the universe could be one of the playthroughs and you still wouldn't get them all. That's fantastic. I love that. And it's certainly an advantage on, replay. Because no one ever really, have you ever heard of anyone replaying like group adventures? Like
group adventures?
Yeah, right? Like or RPGs, like, right? You never hear about that, right? Like, no, there's no redoing campaigns. I mean, the closest I can think of is a couple of years ago, I was in a GURPS group, and there was some new players who came into that who were coming from like one of the Mage games, and the game master's wife was writing a book based upon their campaign. Well, the problem is her creative juices got flowing, and she decided to take the book in a different direction than the campaign had gone. So they had to go back and replay stuff with her choices in mind instead of what actually happened. So she needed to figure out what happened next. Like, I made a major choice and we didn't go this way, so now we have to go this way. And I only think you get away with that if you're related to the game master. Right. But other than that, man, there's not really replayability unless you got a whole new group of people.
Cradle Lake Chronicles was designed so that you could play it with a different archetype and do different things in it. So if you want to play a very social face character, then it's going to be a lot more about getting allies for the fights. If you play a combat character, you're going to fight your own battles. If you play a wheelman, chapter 2 is going to go really well for you. So it was meant to be re-engaged with and get different experience.
Well, all of that is so fantastic. The moniker is well deserved, sir. I think there's so much crazy fun to be had in Cradle Lake Chronicles for Hell on the High Plains. So again, like obviously this went off great enough. You got invited back to write some more for Deadlands. Which areas so we've talked to Brian and Sarah already. Which areas in the West did you mostly focus on when you were writing?
Right, I mostly focused on Kansas and Nebraska. I did contribute some portions of the Dakotas and Colorado.
So the flatlands, mostly the Kansas, Nebraska. So the lacking the wonderful majesty of the Rocky Mountains. How did you spice up Kansas and Nebraska? Like what kind of adventures, foes, monsters, cryptids? What kind of things can people find? A little taste of what's in Kansas and Nebraska waiting for people.
Yeah, right. So I actually was born in Kansas, and I've lived all my life right next door. So Kansas is actually rich in history from this time period, and horrible, horrible things happen there. And so in my mind, as I understand the Reckoners, they are entities which take kind of human vice and sin and evil and fears that are already present, and they just make them manifest. And so to make Kansas appropriately awful, I just had to take the existing history that happened there at this time period, plus legends and cryptids, and just put them in. I could have written Kansas 3 times with what we had to go on. So Nebraska was somewhat similar. Its post-Civil War history is not as complex as Kansas. So for that one, I actually leaned more into Native American stories and beliefs, and really brought that forward. And then I did a long read of 10,000 pages of past Deadlands work and just tried to take things that had happened there in the past and say, well, how has that progressed?
Yeah, so you've kind of started the answer. It's a question I've asked the other two authors about. Yeah, how does one go about approaching? It's got 2.5 decades, and did you feel to create your own new stuff, and what existing elements did you want to draw into what you wrote for Hell on the High Plains?
Yeah, well, when you write for Pinnacle, they give you a Dropbox folder that's full of everything from the dawn of time. And so a judicious use of search engine on that to find Kansas and Nebraska for me yielded a lot. And then it just kind of spiders out from there. So I think I've lost track of the original question.
Oh, no, what freedom did you have to generate new content, story, lore within the Deadlands universe?
Oh, yeah, great freedom. There's plenty of lore there from Deadlands to use. But if you want to generate your own, I found the writing environment extremely free. In fact, some of the things I was allowed to do, I was a little shocked as a second-time author. For instance, there was a main character from Violet Esperanza is prominently featured throughout the books and graphic novels and such. She'd never been statted before. And when I mentioned that, they're like, "Oh, well, go ahead and create some stats." I was like, "Oh, my God."
People will know if I get this wrong. They have opinions.
Big responsibility. So, yep. And then I did a contributing piece in South Dakota where it hints at that there is a way to I'm forgetting the name of the phenomenon just for a second. It's the okay. I'll start again. I contribute a piece in South Dakota that hints at that there's a way to undo the Great Summoning, which is probably the principal plot point of that region. And I thought, well, I'll write this and see if I get smacked for that one. And it flew. It's still, it's in Hell on the High Plains. So it doesn't happen in Hell on the High Plains. It merely suggests there is a way.
I mean, planting seeds, right? They will bear fruit in the future. Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry. In fact, I created an entire alternate world.
So, here we go. Now we have a multiverse. Uh-oh.
We do. Well, not exactly. But underneath Kansas and Nebraska, there is a gigantic aquifer, which supplies all the ground.
Ogallala.
Yeah. And so in Hell on the High Plains, it suggested there's actually an underworld sea there filled with prehistoric blind creatures, which the Reckoner, and also people have gone down there and slowly become like blind cave dwellers themselves. And of course, there's massive ghost rock deposits there. And so
then all of us on Wellwater have been slurping this up for centuries. So, this is exciting.
See, I didn't go there. So that's in the next thing.
Oh, there we go. Next one.
What toxic waste are they putting in?
I mean, Denver gets most of its water from the Ogallala. Obviously we get runoff from the mountains, but we don't capture any of it. And so we actually, all of our water here is pumped out of the ground, or most of it out of the ground. And that's the source. So,
so there's a competing armies of submersible boats down there now, trying to mine this secret deposit of ghost rock.
Oh God, that's fantastic. I love Deadlands. So so it sounds like you answered this a little bit before. So you've grown up in this area, so that's kind of you do that definitely contributes. How else do you approach research in bringing in kind of the creative writing and how do you research historical events that happen and make them a little more fantastical, or what's that process like for you?
Right. Yeah. Well, there's tons. Every state has its own historical society that archives great photographs and articles and primary sources from these regions. And so I find that if you just get in there and read that stuff, truth is always much stranger than fiction. And anything you would dare to try to think up has actually already happened. I mean, there was a gunfighter in Nebraska, I believe, and the whole town got together and killed him and nailed his ears up over the railroad station for everyone who came to town to see. And so I did something with that and Hell on the High Plains, but you can't make that kind of stuff up.
Right? Am I going too edgy here? Oh, read history, folks. So for non-historical sources, like, what are your favorite genres to consume in books and film? Any major properties that are inspiration for your Old West tales?
So I'm a film person, but for Deadlands, I mostly got inspiration from. I just went back and watched all the Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns, and then Shane Hensley, the founder, he has a good list of things that inspired him to do Deadlands to begin with. So I went back and watched those, and mostly you get kind of tone and feel and some of the over the top action that's allowed in those genres then kind of let you feel more permission to be outrageous in Deadlands.
I mean, that really is kind of the point. And I think that's one of the major selling features of Deadlands, right? Is that it's all historical. It is, you get to turn the dial up. I mean, there literally is a fear level. There is and it's fun to play a little closer to traditional, Old West themes that aren't as fantastical. But the fact that you have the options in Deadlands as well to go, yes, there's actually societies living underneath the ground, or certain monuments in Wyoming might have delicious secrets inside of them. Those kind of things, just really help keep it a game versus a lesson, like gosh, I don't know enough about history. Well, no, it doesn't. The game has enough of history already built in for you guys. Like, you can take it where you want. It's the lore. Adding the fantastical elements with the lore just allows it to be eminently playable by any kind of approach. So that's fun.
My major in college was also biology. So keeping with the theme of truth is stranger than fiction, a lot of the creatures in Hell on the High Plains are kind of souped up versions of things that actually happen in nature. I think Sarah and I collaborated in Colorado on an antlion, which, if you didn't grow up in a region that has those, it's a little tiny thing. It makes a little funnel sand trap that ants fall into. And I think between us, we thought, well, what if the sand trap were, 100 feet across?
Sarlacc pit.
Well, that's right. Yeah, it is similar to Sarlacc, isn't it? Yeah. But the real antlion flips sand up at you to knock you down into the pit. So we thought, well, what if he threw past victims at you?
Yes. Like, so just like medieval warfare too. Like, plague bodies. Here, just actual cannon fodder, just fodder, or antlion fodder to. What is the damage from in Savage Worlds from a average sized male body that's dead being flung in your face? The answer's in the book.
Object.
No, I mean, the point about truth being stranger than fiction is, I mean, it is immensely fruitful for creativity. Like, just today, like right before this little meeting right here, I was reading an article about a guy who has his black fungus on the brain. And he was like bicycling down in the tropical climate, I think Costa Rica or something like that, and in an area known for like a dusty road. He had an accident, and apparently they think that he inhaled like road dust, and then that migrated into his brain. So the dude literally has black mold growing on his brain, and none of the existing antifungals cross the blood-brain barrier. And it's like, wait a minute. Is this how we get the zombie apocalypse? Because this sounds like how we get the zombie apocalypse. And I just think really interesting, because like there's other kind of fungus parasites that attack like ants. Like you mentioned ants, and there's there's a fungus in ants that literally will take over the ant and change its behavior to make the ant, now like as like a zombie ant, behave the way the fungus wants it to behave. I'm like, we could do something with this. This is right?
Yeah. So, there is such a fungus. There was an interesting story in Colorado where the author Oscar Wilde, in real life, did a speaking tour in Colorado. At that time, I think it was in Golden. That was the richest city in America, but it was still just filled with miners. And they thought, what is this Irish poet going to say? Well, he went over huge. They loved him because he had kind of edgy stories being Oscar Wilde that he shared with them. And so for that section of Hell in the High Plains, we thought, well, what if, Oscar Wilde wrote the portrait of Dorian Gray.
Yeah.
What if he was inspired by a real event that had happened to him while he was in Colorado? And so we have a Dorian Gray-esque adventure there in Golden in the Colorado section.
Oh, that sounds like a Rippers crossover too. Love it.
Right.
I really loved what the Penny Dreadful TV series did a couple years back now. The first one, they had a Dorian Gray character in there. It was just interesting just watching. It's very, very analogous to like our Rippers line. And I'm like, oh, this is such good fodder. Really well done show, but really interesting kind of, when you actually try to reconcile and bring the Victorian horrors into a game all together. And so I'm glad there's a little Denver or Colorado one there. And yeah, we were talking with Sarah. We mentioned that, like, back in the day, Golden was actually winning the political war to be the capital of the new state of Colorado. And it was actually some politicians from Denver who bribed the right people and got Denver to be chosen instead of Golden. But I think the three at the time were Golden, Central City, and Central City is like in a mountain valley and it is very tiny. I mean, like, you can go up now; it's kind of a little gambling town. But the notion that this could ever be a state capital makes no sense today. I mean, there's barely a highway that goes up there. Most of the year it's just kind of hard to get up there, and there's no way to expand. Like, there's just no ability to have any homes, whatever. It's like just a really kind of ravinous. It's in a ravine, and Denver's like on the plains, nice, but at the time, as you mentioned, all the money was coming out of the mining towns, and so Golden and Central City, they were just flush with cash, and that's where people were going to. And Denver, I think, finally got it because of the railroads. This connecting the railroads. Like, if you look at the map on Deadlands, very accurate on Denver being like the last stop before you have to climb some pretty big mountains. So we better figure out where we're going to do this. Are we going to go, tunnel? Are we going to go around or whatever? And then banking. So all the people who needed gold, they get their gold and they go, well, how do I turn this into, a house or food or, take it back east because it's where I'm from or whatever. And so that's how Denver snuck in there with corrupt politicians. It was probably the better choice, all things considered. But let's other good questions for you. Was there anything surprising that you're excited to see some feedback on the adventures you wrote for Hell in the High Plains?
Well, I was surprised to see people using it as a module with a GM. And for other players to play it, so that was surprising.
So taking that experience from Crater Lake and like seeing the feedback you've got, anything in Hell in the High Plains that you're looking at for people to, you're waiting to see when they read the Hell in the High Plains adventure.
Oh, what surprises there that I'm looking forward to?
Yeah.
Let me see here. Okay, in Dakota, we hid a mini campaign. So there's a lot of standalone adventures, but several of them have a back door into a plot that covers the entire region and requires you to travel the entire region to piece together these clues for something that's much, much bigger. But it's not in your face presented to you. So to see if people locate that and then what they choose to do with that information, since it comes a little at a time, that'll be interesting to see how that goes for folks.
Oh, that's a fantastic teaser. I think with Brian and Sarah, we talked about kind of the one shots kind of element of, there's a lot of Savage Tales and some one shots in there, but the secret campaign, ooh, that's good. So yeah, be on the lookout, folks. When you pick up Hell in the High Plains, there's more than meets the eye. That's pretty exciting. Last question for you. Anything upcoming? Anything like what's next? Any plans? Any creative issues you haven't scratched yet? What's on the table for you past Hell in the High Plains?
There's nothing on the table right at the moment. So I'm afraid I don't have an exciting answer for you there. But I got one kid who just went to college, another about to enter college. So I'm kind of catching my breath here for a second. But I anticipate having a lot more time to dive in. If you ask me what I would want to do next, I would love to do, I don't know if they're going to do accessory materials like solo adventures for Savage Pathfinder, but I would love to do something like that. Or
so that might be better for the companion, because I think for Pathfinder we're converting existing material, and so we're not doing new Pathfinder content creation. But that does sound like something that would be fun for the fantasy companion.
Yeah, and I also like the idea of what East Texas University is, and I think there'd be some great, college road trip solo adventure, or I did an internship and it went really, really bad, or a professor asked me to do some private study and that turned out horrible. I think that it could be some really interesting solo options for that too, if there's interest for that sort of thing. Or even I would love to see more Deadlands solos such that they're woven together where they could become a sort of campaign of one also, perhaps not just leading to other choices, but alternate books and things.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Garrett, sir, I love seeing what you've already created that's already out there. And so folks can pick that up now. And then Hell on the High Plains sounds like a ravishingly good time, all things considered. I mean, it's part of the country I'm most familiar with and love playing in. And, it sort of matches just, hometown Colorado kid. We went up to Deadwood for our recent Savage Worlds event. And that's all in there. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it and playing through it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the crazy genius will come up with next, because I'm sure there's many more good things out there, because the Crater Lake Chronicles is fantastic. Hell on the High Plains, I think, will get rave reviews from folks when they get their hands on it, because it's a lot of content, a lot of material to run through. And I think the kind of blending between you, Sarah, and Brian has really come together really well. So I'm sure that's going to be a hit. And I'm really excited about the hints you've already dropped for Hell on the High Plains. I can't wait for the Kickstarter to get going, and wish you the best of luck and many more Pinnacle products that with your name on them to come.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, folks, hopefully that whets your appetite for the Hell on the High Plains Kickstarter coming on February 15th. So between now and then, if you want to use hashtag Hell on the High Plains, tell us what you love about Deadlands on socials, because love will be in the air on Valentine's Day. And right after, we're going to be launching a great new Kickstarter campaign. And if you haven't picked up Crater Lake Chronicles, it is a fantastic book, and it'll be on sale now until the Kickstarter kicks off. At a 24% off. I set the price at $18.80. Certain date that you guys should know, because it's special for Deadlands. So pick this up if you haven't yet. It's really kind of an interesting book to use. Get the brain flowing on how to play Savage World solo. Really interesting there. You've got to get a flavor for what Garrett puts together before then. And then other business. Let's see. Okay, thank you everybody who has donated to the Acevedos. They're going through a rough time, and you guys have definitely opened your hearts and your wallets to them. So there's a link in the chat, or if you go to the PEG site, peginc.com, and look at our news, there's a way to warm hearts for the Acevedos if you haven't seen that yet. More details there. I won't go into too much of that. But thank you for those who have reached out already. And then the Holler campaign, I think we've got that ordered. So backers are in their upgrade phase now. We're doing that on our own site. And apologies for some of the rollout. There's always little kinks to work out as we're doing custom coded software for our store. But there's some great news with that. Some people were like, hey, why don't you just go back to using the original crowdfunding, backer things? Well, we have opportunities like being able to give free shipping for everybody who makes their pledge. Oh, hello, puppy. Above $175. And so if you are a boss at the Holler level and you do an add-on, you can get free shipping. And that's something we can only really do with the mechanics behind on our website. And so that's a really exciting thing that we're doing for everybody. So that brings in line kind of our Kickstarter policy with our web store policy. So we've had free shipping for web store, things like that. And we want more puppy. Okay, fine. We will get more puppy. Okay, buddy, come in. Come on. Hi, we got camera. So, more Hannibal, and all right, let's see. So yes, this is Hannibal. If you guys missed out, he's the new vice president of marketing for PEG. He gets paid in milk bones. Very cute, delicious, tiny milk bones. and he just ate a banana, which is fun. Just like my other dogs wouldn't eat fruit, but he decided he wanted to eat a banana. So on Holler It, guys, so pre-orders are going to be opening. If they're not open, I think they're open with the pledge now. Jody's in chat; she'll let me know and yell at me if I'm not. But so if you guys didn't get on Holler, you can do that. It's if you go to the Peg site and look at the top on the Peg site, Holler. Oh, I know, you're so cute. Holler, an Appalachian Apocalypse is right at the top. And I was in West Virginia just yesterday. That is where I picked up this cutie little boy right here. His breeder's in West Virginia. So I got my fill of some Appalachia this week. And you can too, if you haven't yet. So just go to pegging.com right at the top. It says Holler and Appalachian Apocalypse. And you can get in on a pre-order for all the wonderful things. And again, if you get that boss of the Holler level and add on one add-on, and if you have a recommendation for me on what add-on you can do, get the clear plastic bases for the minis. I have a whole little bag of them here in my desk. These are for the pawns. And it's like $10 and you get a whole slew of them. And so then your pawns have lovely clear plastic bases. And that'll put you over $175 with the box set, which gives you the book is in the box set. And that'll get you free shipping. So that's exciting. So even in these times of difficult shipping, we're able to offer that for you guys. And so if you go to pegging.com/campaign/holler, that you can get in on. And if you get on it now, everybody who gets in before we get the clear from our shipper will get their books in the same wave as the Kickstarter backers. So pre-order is a good idea. There's some great opportunity there. And I love that setting. And then let's see, anything else we missed? We got Holler, we got the Acevedos, we've got Kickstarter coming in less than 2 weeks. Hell on the High Plains, which is fantastic. And anything else I can spoil? I think that's enough. I think if I say any more, there's some hints in the background. If you can see, but probably too small for you to read. So I'm not going to spoil those. Peg Jody says that's all. And I listen to Jody because whatever she says is law. So thanks, guys, for joining us tonight. We will see you again. We'll have the interview with Brian Reeves and Sarah Martinez, the other co-authors, either closer to the Kickstarter, maybe next week, or on the launch day. We'll just see how all the schedules work out. But we also have interviews with them. And, of course, our own Jess. She's great. She worked her brain off wonderfully on Hell on the High Plains. She's done a lot of great work on that. So we will give her some spotlight too. And yes, Jody is the lawgiver, and she says it's time to go feed the puppy because the puppy is clearly undernourished. So cheers, guys. We will see you soon. But again, I'm going to throw up the banner one more time so you guys can take screen caps and share to your heart's content. But the Hell on the High Plains Kickstarter is going to launch on the 15th. And until then, let's get rid of your comment, Clint, so it doesn't show up. So many things to do, holding a puppy and doing comments at the same time. The pick up Crater Lake Chronicles at a discount. It's like almost 25% discount. If you missed it during our last big Deadlands, or 2 ago. It was before Blood Drive. It was a year ago. So also get Blood Drive. That one's a good one too. So all the Deadlands, but tell us what you love about Deadlands. And what we love is being able to bring another great book to you, filling out the western part of the United States. So let's see. Here we go. I'm actually going to put it up. Here it is, guys. Take it easy. And I'll put this up for a couple seconds. Then we'll do our lovely We Play Savage Worlds, because that's our motto for the year is # We Play Savage Worlds. And we'll see you guys later.
We play Savage Worlds, whether we're at the table or over the internet. In our role-playing game, fantasy is just the beginning. From the Wild West to the depths of outer space and beyond. Anytime, any place. They're all Savage Worlds.